Alright, so I am going to be making something out of aluminum. And this has become quite a path. So I have a 4x8 CNC machine, 4 foot by 8 foot, great at wood, plastics no problem. Theoretically can do aluminum. But I want to kind of do aluminum right. And I've been watching in kind of awe at the coolness of NYC CNC and what John does, and yes, it's on a Tormach, and yes, that's a real milling machine, and there's a big difference between milling and CNC routing. The rigidity is a huge difference, and so on. But that doesn't mean I can't try, and I'm gonna try. So I have a vise coming, and I have a big piece of aluminum, and my plan, which won't be as rigid as a real milling machine, my plan is to mount the vise on the big piece of aluminum and mount the big piece of aluminum on the spoiler board I have, which I have conveniently placed many holes on at a 4-inch grid. So what I'm going to do tonight, and what I'm going to record, which should be interesting, is I'm going to go into Fusion 360 and I'm going to go through my process of making, all of the cam and the CAD for the base. So we're going to switch over here in a second to my screen, and I'll get started. And eventually, I'm going to be I'm not going to make you sit there and watch everything. I'm going to speed it way up so it looks like I'm moving super fast. And I'm also going to jam out while I'm doing it, which you're not going to hear because I have no clue what YouTube's going to think of my music. Travel along with me using Fusion 360 and watch me do a really simple model, and then set up the cam and for putting holes in things and going back and looking at references and making assumptions, and we're just going to see what happens. So hope you enjoy the ride, and later on we'll record actually cutting the aluminum. It's going to be interesting because I got to do work on the top, I got to work on the bottom, I got to clean up all the sides, shape for them so I don't cut myself. The whole thing, when everything's in, that's gonna be like 100 pounds. It's between the 15-pound aluminum base and the 80-pound vise. So I have no clue how I'm gonna move it around my shop either. So it may be one of those things where I'm gonna mount it in the corner of my CNC, and it's gonna stay there and live there as this is where I go to do metal, unless I absolutely have to do something that is a full 4x8 sheet of plywood. And then it may take 2 people to pull it off of there, run whatever full 4x8 sheet of plywood jobs I have, and then put it back when I'm done. Or maybe it just stays off until I have another metal project. But we'll also show the metal project on another video, and it's going to be cool because my father-in-law has a 2.5, and he named it Optimus Prime. I'm going to make him a aluminum Autobot to stick right on the front cover. It's going to be really cool. I hope I don't screw it up. I'm going to break a lot of bits learning how to mill it, but it's kind of making his gift for Christmas is what's getting me to do all this stuff. So follow along. We'll see how these videos go. Hopefully they're not too terribly long. All right, let's make this thing happen. All right, so we're going to get started here. Just going to open up a new project, open up a new file. Getting things going, going to start a sketch, and I'm going to blaze through the next, everything that happens until we get to the actual cam, and then I'll discuss the cam. Actually, I'll do all the cam, and I'll discuss it. And there's lots of randomly going around, and you'll see me going to the websites and reading some values, and in the end, I actually wasn't super comfortable with some of the values I was reading, so while I have this all mocked out, it may change before I actually cut it. So now for super fast forward.
Alright, so we've gotten rid of the video, and I'm going to kind of explain what's going on here, just through a narration after the fact. This is, I'm narrating after the fact, so I'm going to wait until we move around to where I want to talk from. We're talking about the fact that it's a two-sided project. There's top and bottom. So the top has got a notch in it. That's what the vise is going to sit in. It should help square it up. Showing the little notch. I think it's a 1/16 of an inch. Maybe an 1/8 of an inch. Can't remember what I did. 1/16 of an inch. Cut it to 1/16 of an inch. So it's a 1/16 of an inch notch. And then there's the two spots where the bolts will come through, stick up, and the vise will mount to them. The grid pattern's there. There's a 4-inch grid pattern with the bolts. There's two that are not going to, they're there, but they're never being used. You won't ever get to them. The vise will be on top of them. And we're just showing how the bolts will come through. They should slip into those two slots. That's the idea, is the bolts will slip into the slots. I could have threaded it, come from the bottom and threaded it down, but I like the idea of bolts coming all the way up. It should be fairly easy to drop the vise on it, the 80-pound vise. Put the vise on it, tighten it down, and with the notches should be fairly squareable. So we face it, we do the contouring around the edges, we do the pocketing. I could do the adaptive pocketing and then come back and do the pocketing to finish it, but we'll just do pocketing with the finishing, and it'll all in one run. Then we pocket out all the holes. We're no finishing passes on those, and we're just doing straight plunges because they're so small. 1/4-inch bit, essentially it's a drilling action, but I don't have a 1/4-inch drill. Well, I do, but I don't want to go through into my spoil board, so I like my end mill for that. Part of the reason I'm making this is because you really need to be able to go through when you're doing something more than wood. On the back side, we have the two back pieces. So we face it, and then we mill out where the bolts go. Assuming I can line it up perfectly, they'll show up exactly where they're supposed to, and it'll be freaking brilliant, man. And I'm just kind of showing how everything kind of goes together when you flip it around. So all in all, pretty straightforward. We will see how it builds. We follow on video for cutting it, and making chips and seeing what happens there. And really, this whole diving into making this using a fairly interesting. It's a vise for a CNC mill. So I'm a CNC router, CNC mill, kind of the same. Rigidity is nothing alike, but we'll see. So it's all NYC CNC's fault, John. I know I'm a knob, but damn it for making it look so cool. And so we'll see what happens. So I should mention before I run off, if you like what you're seeing or you're interested in what you're seeing, subscribe. And if you think what I'm doing is totally ridiculous, please comment and tell me I'm ridiculous. The only way I will learn is if people who are smarter than me correct me for being dumb. And yeah, so subscribe if you're interested, and tell me I'm an idiot if you have something valuable to add. Appreciate it. Thanks again for watching.